A very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Design Meetup, powered by IxDF Kerala and co-sponsored by Experion Technologies. Our speaker today, Vaishno Prasad, a senior UX designer, will be taking us through the topic Multiverse of Mental Models in UX Design. Over to you, Vaishno.
Thank you so much, Mega. So,
Yes.
welcome to Multiverse of Mental Models in UX Design. I would like to take a few seconds to talk about why I chose this topic. This particular topic of mental models in UX design not only bridges the gap of UX designers, UI designers, as well as developers, it entices the curiosity to ask the whys, the hows, and to learn more. Basically, not just about psychology, but also as an individual, you will learn more about yourself and you will start observing how your daily interactions with either digital products or products go. So, with that, I would like all of you to welcome again to Multiverse of Mental Models in UX Design. How mental models impact user interactions. Let's get started. So, what will we learn today? So, we have what is a mental model, the basics, what includes and uses mental models and what's not. Use mental models to create UX that makes sense. How to determine users' existing mental models, how to fix a mental model mismatch, key takeaways. Before we get started, let's test our knowledge. So as you can see, we have on the right hand side, we have an image of a door. A door has handles. So on the left hand side, you have a simple question. So let's play a role play game over here. So imagine walking towards, you're walking towards a bank and you encounter this door, the door with the image on the right hand side. You see these handles. You have two options now. So you have to enter the bank. So you have this door, you have two options. So you either push to open or you either pull to open. So I request you all to write down your answers in the Teams chat, and we will come to this at the end of the session. It's very interesting, and you will be surprised to know what's more in it. So let's get ahead and learn what is mental model. In simple terms, mental model basically means what a user believes about a system at hand. It's preconceived notion of a user based on their social construct, based on their surroundings, based on their emotional history, and based on the situational circumstances. How our users sees a certain product. We're not just talking about physical product. We're talking about digital product, a website, a social media platform, a mobile application, or a physical kiosk. So that's the basic understanding of mental models. But is it that basic? For us to understand, let's take a bit step back to the early years of 1943. So there was a psychologist named, a Scottish psychologist named Kenneth Craig. So he coined this term where he believed that any human, before interacting with a certain, say, either an occurrence or an event, they build up certain events, small scale events in their mind to pre anticipate or to just anticipate what could possibly happen. So when I use the term Amazon, your mind quickly thinks Amazon Freedom Sale, which is currently going on. Or when I say shopping, you will think about online shopping and less of physical shopping. So this is how the term mental model came into existence. Mental model not only talks about how users sees, believes, and interacts with the product, but it also emphasizes more on how they arrive at to that decision of interacting with a certain system or product or a device. Now let's understand what's included in users' mental models and what's not. So what's included in users' mental models and what's not. So let's understand the crux, what makes a mental model a mental model. First of all, we need users. So without users, we don't have the concept of mental models. So conscious humans. So this cannot be applied to definitely those, but this is relating to just humans. Humans with conscious that are those have the ability to make a conscious and a rational decision. That is number one. They should be able to make rational and conscious decisions. Second, there has to be circumstantial evidence. There has to be certain data that supports. We cannot just create a mental model isn't built over a day's period or a few seconds period. A mental model is built similar to a habit. We say that it takes 21 days to build a habit, and 100+ days to build a lifestyle. Similar to that concept, a mental model, it takes a user's social construct, history, surroundings, emotional evidence, history of that, their interaction with a certain physical environment, how they interact with physical environment, how they interact with their social surroundings. Just like that, these components build up users' mental model. So what's not included in mental models? So there are certain novelty features that are not included in mental models. For example, how a user makes a decision on certain once in a lifetime decisions. For example, what I would say when it comes to making a very expensive purchases. So in that way, we cannot exactly pinpoint or create a mental model that this user as a history, as this so many areas that we can say that this user is likely to do this or make this expensive purchase. That happens once in a while. So these situational evidences have been shown, have been proven that these items cannot be brought into mental models. And now let's look into it evolution of mental models. We'll take a few examples how we have overall evolved our mental models when it comes to certain aspects of our daily life. So here we have the simple, the most basic, the calling feature. So back in the old days, which is before today, we had the time where we had to like individually dial each number, and it was connected to a landline. Without electricity, it wouldn't work. Then came the brick style cell phones. Then came the very portable Nokia phones, very popular even today amongst its own crowd. Then came the cell phones, a smartphone, which had the capability of connecting to internet, which made the calling feature even more enhanced. So then came today. So what do we have today? Hey Siri, call Tim Cook, or Hey Google, call Larry Page. So that's what we have today, and that's how quickly we've this is a matter of over 10, 20 years of time. This is just that. This is how quickly we are evolving when it comes to our mental models. Just basic feature that we engage at least once or twice in a day, we do call someone or we do receive a call from someone. So this is how the technology has influenced and simplified. Let's look at another more important concept, is shopping. So back in the time, shopping was similar to a physical excursion where you go out with your friends or family. You have a certain budget, and you go to these many stores, you spend the whole day. Even in today's time, when it comes to marriages in India, cultural weddings, whether irrespective of religion, weddings, they take 2 or 3 days to go out for shopping for the groom and the bride. And similarly to that, we have now options where you can find everything from the 10 stores that you visit the entire day. You can visit those 10 stores in 10 minutes with the help of platforms like Myntra or Amazon. So that's where we are today right now. We have simplified the shopping experience. We brought it to digital. And now when I talk about e-commerce without showing you the pictures, immediately you think about if I just say shopping, or if I say discounts, you're more likely to think about Amazon discounts, Flipkart discounts, or H&M, XYZ brands. So just like that, our mental models have evolved over the period of time. And like I said, like the mental model itself says that it doesn't happen over a period of minutes or seconds. It's continuous process of every day interactions, and overall engagement of you and the world. So now next we'll see use mental models to create UX that makes sense. So this is very important. Now we've understood what mental models are. We've looked at the evolution part, and now we as UX designers we need to ask ourselves that okay, how do I incorporate mental models in UX projects that makes sense? See, the red flag, the very first biggest flag I would ever show to you, or based on my research, what I've read, based on the research that I've done, the others I've done, it is very important that as UX designers, we do not make assumptions. Assumptions are like a roadkill when it comes to building a mental model. It is important that to remember that everyone's of mental model are subjective to nature. So I could hate social media, like as a designer, I hate social media. But whereas you, as viewers, you could love social media. Some of you might love, networking platforms, but could hate social media platforms. We all different reasons. We all have different reasons. I have my reason saying that it takes my peace of mind. I spend hours on it if I once start scrolling. I hate consuming short content, but some people love it because they get so much of concise information in one shot. But I like to read newspapers. Can't help it. As a designers, we need to incorporate all these factors in mind. Just because I don't like social media doesn't mean when it comes to building a product or a design, I need to be fair. I need to not assume anything from my point of view. Now, the users may not understand certain things. As it said, designers have knowledge of how digital systems work. As UX designers, we have the power of being ability to understand, know everything, and not being impartial just because we don't like it. We have that power to influence the product. So here is the part where I take a second. I want you all to realize, whether you are a UI designer, UX designer, or developers, that you have a very you know uh, very essential role to play when it comes to building a product. That it is absolute necessary that you do not assume based on your understanding of the world. Sure, we have good subject matter expertise, but at the end of the day, it's the users who are going to use it. For example, we take Instagram. Instagram, great product, fantastic product. But when you look at the outcomes, when you weigh the positive and negative outcomes, we all know what comes out. We all know how adversely it has affected our daily lifestyle. So I will leave that to that. And in this, there is a very important law as UX designers we need to remember, which is of Jacob's law. It says, quoting Jacob's law, users spend most of their time on other sites. This means that users prefer your site to work the same way as well as the other sites they already know. So it simply says that if you are building a product, it has to be something similar that the user's mental model is already used. So if I change when it comes to shopping experience, the ad card, the proceed to checkout, if I alter that flow for a user in my platform, whereas the 99 other users follow a similar pattern where the user in particular, has experience, has gone through all those platforms, has built a strong mental concept of, this is how the online shopping experience should be based on their beliefs or understanding or their experience or their engagement. If I make changes to that, I am either forcing the user to adapt to something new or the user just give up. Like, no, okay, no, this is too inconvenient. This doesn't make sense to me. So I'm just going to go buy this somewhere else. So it's very important that, we make sure that mental models are not taken lightly as UX designers. Moving further, we deep dive into one of the aspects that mainly influences the mental models, which is understanding the generation. So currently, we are dealing with boomers, Generation X, millennials, Generation Z. Whereas I personally am from Generation Z. Okay, let me take some time to help you understand from where we have come to where we are rapidly heading. So where we come from, the time the internet was popular and it started booming. The second everybody got hold of the concept of internet and started hedging on it, utilizing it, saw the possibility of things can be done as in the matter of such short span. From internet came the Macintosh. Our elder generations, they get to witness that such incredible technology. They were like blown away with the concept of having personal computers, let alone forget about playing Xbox and stuff like that with the help of your desktop. But personal, the whole concept of personal computers was such new. So introducing them was absolutely incredible. As a Apple, we have to give it to them as they make sure that the user experience is met to the mark. They set standards, and they were able to introduce this such revolutionary product to them. While Microsoft was doing a great job, but yet Apple somehow found a way to introduce themselves as a personal computer brand that every kid back then knew about or would want to have it. Then came the social media network time, where I think my elder cousins or my uncles witnessed that generation, that whole period, where social validation was something new, exciting. Everybody wanted to get onto it. The targets were, like I said, my uncles then, but they would be teenagers or probably studying in colleges then. So internet was all over, social network was all over, thanks to personal computers, accessible. It was accessible either through laptops or computers from the libraries or to cafes. We were able to access it, and everybody wanted to be on a platform that influenced the lifestyle of, I think, everyone who witnessed that period of social media. Even me, back in the time when Instagram was recently introduced, whereas Generation Z, I'm talking about the year of 2014, 15, where Instagram was fairly new to us. My friends were on it, so I was like curiosity. I also want to be on it. So I started posting pictures. I also wanted to post pictures. Somehow it felt good. Somehow the likes, the concept of likes, started gaining validation. So what happened once I became a UX designer? I look back to it. As I said previously, I hate social media. I started to observe myself. One of the key traits of UX designer is to observe and articulate based on those observations that how social media was adversely affecting the lifestyle of me personally. I would spend hours on it and not be productive. And I'm seeing this observation throughout. Okay? Uh, Observing in my friends, they are taking such extreme measures to post such good pictures, well as the technology has become so simplified and so easy for them that it's getting them to engage with the platform even more. I'm talking about filters. You don't have to use foundation anymore. You can just take a filter, and for men, you don't have to go through the tedious process of fixing your eyebrows. But all you have to do is use a filter provided by these amazing, easy to use social media platforms. What we don't see, I request all the designers over here to start observing how it's adversely affecting your lifestyle, how it has become a prominent part of your life. And we need to understand that how technology is making it easy, not just about for social media or anything, but also in situations like research and development. All those technologies that we're building, I mean we are reusing uh, space fuel, all that stuff. So thanks to that, that is the positive side of it. And we are feeling lucky that, as a millennial or as a Generation Z, this says Generation Z, but I feel in the heart that I'm a millennial, where I get to witness a generation where technology hardly existed, absolutely new. The whole concept was something value driven. Wow, this is something new. This adds value to my life. On the right hand side, I have the Generation Z or the upcoming generation where I'm witnessing where value is secondary, convenience is first. I hear like Zomato is easy to use compared to Swiggy, so I'm going to use Zomato. It's easy for me to order on Amazon compared to Flipkart. know, Convenience has become the number one factor for the upcoming generation. It's and based on observation, and as millennials or as Generation Z, by the data says, uh, we are observing where there was a generation who was grateful and glad that wow, this is adding so much value to my life, making my life simple. On the other hand, we have a generation that's pushing limits of the technology in terms of not just value but also in terms of convenience. It's asking us to rethink the whole value driven concept. So that's where we need to understand this major crux that builds up the whole UX mental model is a generation, the target user's age group. Moving further, let's learn how to determine users' existing mental models. User research. It's very interesting, and I personally love this part. User research, applying it in the early design process. It's very important. So we've done all our empathizing and we collected all our data. What we do now is we need to articulate, we need to analyze before we get to the defining. We need to pull all the data together and then make sense out of it. So when it comes to understanding users, before we start building empathy maps and user flows, task flows, XYZ, we need to articulate what we've understood, what we've gathered from data. So it's very important as UX designers that we are very unbiased over here. Again, our personal assumption should not be come into place over here. So what we do is we have the best practices so far we've identified: card sorting, user interviews, surveys, competitor research. Competitor research is something that when there is absence of first-hand information, primary research, or if you are in a situation where the bandwidth does not support uh, primary research, you go with competitor research. That again, it is helpful, but when you compare it with primary and secondary, obviously primary gets the value. So this will clearly help you when you're defining users mental models, your target users mental models. This should, again, the best practice what I've witnessed is when you're showing your prototypes, when you're doing your A/B testing. So you have two versions of certain product, certain feature of the product. You're testing it with the audience. You're closely observing how the audience is reacting, how your user testing group is reacting to each of the feature, whether A or B. You make notes, you make sense out of it, you reiterate, you go back. So that's how you will be able to understand what the user exactly wants, how they want it. And not just that, you will understand why the user is asking, expecting this, and you will be able to see through their mental model. Up to what extent you'll be able to see through, it's mainly based on your practice, the experience, and how much you practice this in your design process. Moving further, we've understood what's mental models and evolution and age gap, and we've understood how to do the things right, the concepts to extract mental models, practices, stuff like that. We've seen the good side of it. Now let's see what could possibly go wrong. So I have a very short video that I would like to play from a very popular movie recently released 2023, already made a almost $1 billion. So let me play this. Yes. Um, okay. So we all know what happens when we do not adhere to users' mental model. So let me add a bit context to it. So let me get this right. Her name is Nebula, and she's not human. She's partly human, but most of her body parts are replaced. Uh, of course, this is all fictional from a very famous, design studios, Marvel. So her body parts are replaced with, super sophisticated, highly intelligent, machinery, uh, uh, all best possible thing, because it was done by Thanos. So one of the very popular villains that our generation has witnessed. And if she herself was not able to figure out a door handle of a car that was built by humans, then things could possibly go wrong when there is even a slight mismatch between the mental model. So I don't think I have to emphasize even more on that. I request you to watch, movie like that, because that particular movie somehow they bought the concepts of design, bad design, and made a good humor out of it. And you will learn. It will entice your curiosity, like, okay, wow, I didn't know this part. So now we've seen things can go wrong, how a small thing, even when it comes to a door handle in such expensive car, can go wrong, how we can fix certain situations. So in this particular slide and the upcoming slides, so we will see the understanding, the examples, how a mental model mismatch can, we as UX designers, we can take care of it. Make sure that that doesn't happen, what we just saw. So in certain situations, when we are building new features and when we are building something little innovative, as UX designers, we have that, what do you say, we have the josh that we want to make the best for this customer, give the best delivery and most innovative. But our users are used to what they have seen around, what they have encountered on their daily engagement. So what we do, what can we do? We can't just build something new and like, hey, just go on, use it. If you don't use it, then it's, I don't know. It all circles back. It all circles back around. If they don't know to use it, you lose your users, and you lose your users, you basically lose your client. So we don't want that. We just don't want that. So what could, as UX designers, possibly do to make sure this bad cycle doesn't happen? So as UX designers, we need to understand that we need to first understand the users mental models up to a certain extent. I'm not talking see through it, see through their soul. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about understand to a certain extent that what I am building here right now could possibly be new to this particular user set. Let me repeat that. This feature that I'm building could possibly be new to this particular user set, or based on the mental model, we've observed that they are used to a certain product, maybe a competitor's product. This possibly new feature can adversely affect or could possibly bring change in how they see this entire product. So what we can do to make sure that doesn't happen, first is to have the understanding that we need to accept as UX designers this is new. So what could we possibly do to avoid a disaster like we saw previously? So let's look into a certain examples and I will explain further. So next we have Microsoft's team introducing new updates. So whenever there is a major update, whenever there is major update means something new in the UI, something new in the overall performance. Performance is while in this is the back end, the UI and the UX part of it. If something is replaced from left to right, then we should know the overall. We've been using Teams for I've been using Teams for more than 5 years now. So if there is a certain misplacement of certain, say, even a small button or a small CTA, I would notice it, and it would be inconvenient for me from the point I learned about it to the point I finally get used to it. So during this period, you will never know how long it would take for one particular user. I'm not talking about the entire user set, I'm talking about each individual user. That's where you need to remember not to assume, because individually it could differ for each and every person. So let's look at this beautiful example. I'm pretty sure they've come to this after a lot of iterations and a lot of mistakes of their own. Let's learn from their mistakes. So here on the top right corner, you can see they have given a very clear-cut CTA that, hey, look, try the new teams. If you just toggle between this, you will get this beautiful pop-up where they're introducing that, preview the new teams. They are giving the users complete control as to what they can do, whether they decide to update it, or they can click on update, look into what's going to change, and what they will be having from further on, or they can toggle it back. I've done this couple of times. I've looked into their features to the extent where, okay, maybe I'll just stick to the old one. That is me. That's my personal choice. Like I said, individuals, preference differs. So what can we do to make sure that, we are making sure that everybody is happy? That's where a situation like this comes in, where we give the users complete freedom, where they can decide whether to update or whether to opt for that feature or not. Here, you are changing the way of existing product works. You can slowly roll out the changes without affecting the mental model of the user. So what happens when you slowly roll out is, day by day, the user is learning something. So the user feels that, okay, this is something new, and I'm exploring. This is changing. This is changing as per the time. This is like modern UI. This is changing as per the trends. As a user, they will also feel that, okay, they're keeping up with the trends. That's where social contract constructs, engagement, all that stuff comes in. So yeah, making sure that users are alert when you are making to certain changes or introducing certain changes. You get them on board, like, hey, here's the deal. We are bringing something new, so we want us to go hand in hand. So you give me feedbacks, I will give. You have the freedom whenever you want to choose. You want to update, you update. You have the freedom. You have full control. Make sure you ensure to give the feedback. So that's our whole intention. Feedback is very important for us as designers, developers, as a whole business. That's very important. So let me show you one more example how Google Play Store does it for their Android devices. So we have application over here. So Google Play has a service that provides these two features that says flexible updates and immediate updates. So it has given the freedom to the developers, where on one hand side they can give complete freedom, something that everybody's following, all the major players follow, giving the freedom to the user, making sure that letting them know that there is an update available. So you give them the freedom, they want to update now, or they can update it later or learn about it. Very cleverly, if you can see over here, there is update or learn more. There's no option for like later. It's very cleverly, put out. What allows is that as an app developer or as a business, we want to make sure that the users are keeping up to the latest application version available. So this is where Google Play, allows us to do this. On the right hand side, the update available. So it's making sure that in an application like Make My Trip, it makes sure that you update and then continue using the application. So without which it doesn't allow you to go further. This happens in cases of, like, for example, when it comes to pushing content or pushing promotions. Uh, it's very important that the dynamic content has to be completely changed, so a new update is pushed out. And even when it comes to games, so they make sure that you download the latest version or update to the latest version and then continue playing. With example, like BGMI or Call of Duty, such heavy duty games, they come with updates like 1 GB, 1.5 GB. So it's very important. It changes the entire look, the entire feel every time a new season is introduced. So not only that, on the right hand side, the immediate updates, they help us make sure that the security features are taken care of. If there is a certain bug related to security, they immediately push this out, and they get that bug fixed. Next, let's look into one of the popular devices after Android is iOS devices or the iOS ecosystem. So on the left hand side, we have manual updates, your typical, giving the freedom to the user. And on the right hand side, we have the option to update automatically. So one of the grave mistakes what I've done, speaking out of personal experience, Twitter, I lost the birds, so it's just X now. So yeah, um, back in the time, even when it comes to Instagram, so the old logo to the transition of new logo, people hated the new logo for a while, but they accepted it. They accepted it. Why? Because back in the time, the option to manual update, the auto updates, users were not completely aware of it. So in situations like that, when my own example, if I had taken the second to make sure that if I had disabled the auto updates and kept the manual updates open, I would still have the bird on the Twitter, which I don't have anymore. So bird's gone. So this is where this whole update and introducing of new features comes into play. So that's where we need to remember, whenever we are introducing something new or something updated, it is very important that the users are informed, taken care of. When I say taken care of, first step is to inform them, second step is to handhold them. I'm not talking about us physically going and like this is how to use, but we have measures that we can take, as making sure that they are doing the right thing. Let me go back and show you what you know preview the new teams. So when I click on get it now, so what it does is that it will walk me through whatever the places that is it has changed or it has updated. So show me next, show me next. So I click on next, shows the next update where it has made the changes. So just like that, we have the power, we have everything. So this concludes in a way that we've understood what it is, what mental models are. We've seen the evolution, what goes into mental models and XYZ. We've seen, how adversely it can affect. One thing I forgot to mention in that part is that I'm sure you all will agree that users tend to remember the negative aspects of a certain experience compared to the positive aspect. So that scene, from Guardians of the Galaxy was so popular that it was sent out as a part of the teaser. That was an independent, snap or independent clip that was pushed out by the Marvel itself. So it's not something that I cropped from a movie. So you need to understand from this that how seriously yet unknowingly we take it. What do you say? Into our understanding. We engage with it, but yet we still somehow are unaware of it, which is quite dangerous. But as UX designers, we need to remember that we have the power to influence the right way, the right thing, and we have the power to build the understanding of a user's mental models. So before we get to the answer of the previous test your knowledge, what we did about the toes, there's few more things I would just like to highlight is that, like I mentioned before, understanding the age group. On the right hand side, I had Generation Z, which I sadly belong to. So what's happening now is the mental models are ever growing, evolving at such a rapid phase that let me give you an example. So Twitter, uh, just I think weeks back, the new author of Twitter, Elon Musk, I just posted this tweet saying that, okay, how about the X for a logo? And within a week, the logo was replaced, the whole brand guidelines were replaced. So no more I am to think about Twitter equals, okay, there's this white bird in a blue background. So yeah, no more to think about that. So while the technology is making things easier and convenient, it's also negatively affecting us, where we have to accept what we've been given in a way while still believing that we are in control. So as UX designers, we need to remember that not just designers, developers, and the UI designers, the business team as well. So yeah, let's get to the answer to this question. So I hope all of you have engaged with that question. So yeah, this is not cropped. This is not edited. So this is an actual image which I had blurred out previously and showed it to you. So yeah, here this particular door, this particular push door will teach us a very important concept. Actually, three important concepts. So we'll deep dive. So the answer is push. So all those who said pull, I understand. You see a handle, you grip it, and you are trying to pull it towards yourself, or I don't know. That feels more natural, I guess, for me. But I don't know how it would feel for you. Like you would likely to push it ahead, maybe. But the image, the actual door title say push. So now let's deep dive into understanding what this whole uh, phenomena is like. Why is it push, or why could not it be pull, or why could it be push on the left or pull on the right? What's the whole logic behind it? So let's understand. So first concept is the Norman door. So the door that you see right now, it's popularly in the design industry is known as, I wouldn't say popularly, but controversially known as the Norman door. So it basically means a feature or a aspect of UX that's very difficult to use or very confusing to use. So as I said, I would pull it. You might disagree and say you would likely to push it. So under these, we have two important concepts that we as UX designers have to abide by whenever we are building a certain component of a feature. We have affordances and we have signifiers. So again, Norman says an affordance in the design is the aspect of an object which suggests how the object should be used, a visual cue to function and use. So in the image, if you focus, if you look at the door handles serves as an affordance. Okay, this is an affordance. It's an object of the entire feature. It's a function of use. We as users, we are likely to use it either to push or a pull for us to get inside or to cross, get inside. Then we have signifiers. So they are perceptibly cues that designers include interfaces or user can easily understand. Like, okay, when you look at it, okay, this is okay. We have push over here. So before there was no push or pull. Imagine this not being there. So say 100 users pass by. Some could push it, some could pull it. Now that we have a signifier that says push, there's likelihood that 99% of the users would push it. So that's where signifiers play a major role. When it comes to a button, say add to cart, or imagine just having add under a product, add without any more contextual information. Like add to what, you would ask, add to wish list, add to cart, or add to must buy list, XYZ. So signifiers are very important. Affordances are very important. You have a product, you have a feature where you are supposed to a feature of purchasing a product. So that involves a certain components. Heart would represent adding it to your wish list. There's a button with signifier that says add to cart, or proceed to checkout. So that's where the whole existence of button should clearly be defined. It shouldn't be disabled. It should clearly communicate to the user that, hey, if you click me, I will take your product and add it to the cart, so that it becomes easy for you in the next step where you can proceed to checkout, pay, add the details of your address, and uh, make the payment. So with that, I hope you've learned something from very particular this concept, the Norman door, and I hope every time you use your door, you would look at it not in a normal way, and there's always something around you that teaches something about design, about psychology, about the entire user experience. You will ask why it is in a way, and why it is in that such particular way. Why does the laptop close from bottom to top to bottom? Why doesn't it close the other way around? So I hope from this overall session I was able to entice the curiosity as to asking the whys. Before I conclude, let's sum it up and understand the key takeaways what we learned from this session. So in context, we've understood what mental models are and how it works in a user experience. Let me emphasize again, mental models is not something that you got a project, you got something, and you got a project, you got a requirement, you worked on it, you looked into your secondary or primary information based on that particular set, and you just started working on it. No, that's not the case. We need to look at mental models as something that's developed over the period of time and not on an instance basis, over a series basis, not an instant basis. We need to look at it on a long term point of view and somehow be able to articulate it and communicate it. That's where we as UX designers need to up our ante. Then second, mental models are built in user's brain and are based on what they know from past interactions on website. So here you need to understand something that like I just mentioned, I may dislike using social media platforms. There is nothing on earth that you could tell me right now at this moment that could change my mind. So that is my mind, that is my beliefs or my understanding. So um, that is one way we as UX designers we need to understand that um, it's subjective to individual. We have to find that bridge, how we are able to cater to the maximum audience and make sure that inclusivity is taken care of, and the gender parity is taken care of, the age gap, everything is taken care of. We are communicating the right message, welcoming to the all audiences. In that way we need to take it care of. The UX designers can use mental models to develop designs that make sense to users. So yeah, whatever we do, it has to make sense at the end of the day. Now, what sense I'm talking about? Am I talking about common sense, or a business sense, or design sense, or any other sense that exists? Um, but at the end of the day, it should make sense to the users that okay, I need to use this product, I need to engage with this product for XYZ reasons. But as a user, I need to engage with this particular product. That's important to us. Usability innovations should be introduced sparingly. What this says, usability plays a very important role. We've seen the card sorting, we've seen the process. But again, when we are testing our prototypes with the users, A/B testing that I mentioned, it's very important that we don't restrict ourselves as UX designers. Okay, we have certain processes that our elders have done, Don Norman or Nielsen Group have said, prescribed. We follow that. That shouldn't limit us from exploring what possibly could the new generation. You never know what you will discover. you know uh, you will never know uh, what you would be capable of doing unless you try innovating, unless you try creating. Procreation can be done. Innovating is something that I highly encourage. Innovation is not something easy. um, so usability innovations should be introduced as the trends are changing, as the time is growing. And if there's a mismatch, mental models and products UX, it will result in, I think I don't have to speak about that. We saw the clip. I think we will remember that clip for a while. Determine users' existing mental models through user comparator research. Absence of primary research, use that. Then if there is a mismatch, remember to walk through the user, first understand if this feature is new or old, walk through walk through the user on this particular feature, hold their hands, show them how it can benefit their life, enhance their overall experience, and how the system works from here on. Those are the key takeaways, and I hope this has been very beneficial to you. I will not leave you empty handed. I will leave you with few resources that you can explore and learn more on your own. So we have people plus AI, that's related to AI, how it is affecting the overall mental models. Then we have other resources, prominent resources, Nielsen Norma Group, Interaction Design Foundation, Career Thought. So with this, I would like to conclude the session, and thank you everyone for being such patient listeners. I know even the mic is mute, but yeah, I hope I have made it interesting enough that you were able to absorb it. So thank you so much.